Hunter Bell and Caroline Harper Knapp, and we are living the authentic life. And today we really embrace the authentic life because we have special guest Millie here because being an authentic mom who also has a full-time career, sometimes you just have to punt and bring the kids along.
That's right. And thank you, Danae, for letting us. So Millie's taking a nap in the corner, and we'll see how this goes. If I disappear, stage right, stage left, you know why.
We do know why. But the coolest thing is we are all wearing Hunter Bell's amazing line.
Looks awesome.
And
So
you're
good.
launching it tomorrow, your
Tomorrow
fall
morning.
line.
Yeah, it's a busy time for everyone in fashion, but we're thankful to be here and still in business. So we're excited about this collection. Just thrilled that we made it through such a rough patch during quarantine, and we're still kicking it. So that's good.
I feel like I say this every collection, but I think it's one of my favorites. It's so good. It's
Thank
really
you.
good.
Thank you.
I love these patterns.
I love this collection. So we'll see how it sells. I hope launch tomorrow will tell us a lot.
Well, we went through Marfa on our way to Colorado, and
Love.
your photos at HunterBellNYC.com, your photos of the line really reminded me of that.
Yeah, that
kind
Western,
of
like, out
Texas
west.
fresh,
Yep.
natural, and we're all kind of trying to maneuver our way through COVID. And I think so many of us have been trapped in our house. Like, even the thought of, my mom and I were talking, just taking a drive now
Yeah.
is a treat for us to just get out of the house. And every week, so we are here living the authentic life, as I said, and I have to give a huge shout out to Adam Andrus, who always
Yay,
keeps
Adam.
us with the cameras working and helps us through the tough pinches. But I have had the most amazing opportunity to talk to people about connection, and I feel like that's the most painful part of COVID is how the way we connect with people have changed so much. And then also commitment is that we were all committed to making it through this, but it was just this end date just kept changing and it just kept looking different. And then in the process, we really have thought about purpose, which is the other thing that I want to talk to you guys about. And I think it shows all of us are career women, but our purpose is our family and giving back to the community. And that's how I first really connected with you guys officially in a collaboration was we hosted the first Women Who Shape Houston luncheon to talk with our friends about sex trafficking, and we definitely want to dive into that. But let's go back to fashion. I mean, both of you guys are complete fashion girls. Caroline, you had years as a buyer with Neiman's and with Gilt, and now your online business is not just fashion, but it's also interiors, which I think is so interesting, and travel and family and style. Tell us a little bit about how did you pick this career? Or did it pick you?
It's a strange career that even I feel like people still don't understand because it is new. So after college, I went through Neiman Marcus's executive development program. It's their kind of buyer training program. And I was there for 4 years and married my husband, Fred, who you both know. And he was applying to business schools while we were engaged. He ended up at Columbia in New York, which I was cheering for the whole time because as someone that works in fashion, and I'd interned there in college and just fallen in love with it. So after we got married, we moved to New York, and I got a job from Gilt Group as a buyer there, where I was also there for 4 years. And it was they were both in fashion. I was in women's fine apparel, in both departments, at Neiman's and at Gilt. But it was such an interesting time because it was in 2009 when, of course, the huge, the Great Recession. And it was really perfect timing for Gilt Group. Of course, they didn't know that was coming, but all the designers had so much inventory that, retailers couldn't sell it. So it was a really interesting time, and it was a very startup mentality. I mean, they became the largest startup out of New York, valued at $1 billion when I was there.
Wow.
And it was just such a learning experience from that entrepreneur type path. But on the side, I started blogging because while we were at Guild Group, bloggers were really starting to be something. Again, this is 2010 by now. And we were talking about them. We were looking at bloggers' pictures to kind of decide themes for ourselves. And so I decided to give it a shot and try it. It was kind of my weekend hobby for a while. And then in 2013, when I had Knox, my oldest son, I had grown it into something that was big enough to become my job, and it didn't make sense to. I knew I couldn't do all three. I knew I couldn't be a mom, be a blogger on the weekends, and have a 60-hour plus work week working in New York fashion. So something had to give, and it just made the most sense to focus on House of Harper and my family. And so since then, I've been doing it full time as a mom, a working mom, and full time blogger, and it's just been really fun. And as you said, it's pivoted over the years. When I was in New York and working in fashion, it was strictly a personal style blog. And to the whole title of this podcast, Living the Authentic Life, as my life has pivoted. I moved back to Texas, renovated a house, became a mom of 3. I've just kind of shared everything, the ups and downs, the fashion, the home, entertaining. It's all just kind of where I am in life at that time and what's inspiring me.
And I think
love
it's
that.
interesting because there's so many girls out there, young women, even older women. I mean, I didn't become the Vintage Contessa till I was 40 plus. I changed careers too. That think about, I want to be a blogger, I want to be a fashion designer, and you guys did it. And the thing that I find is that it evolved. You still did other things till you got to this place. I mean, you're a Southern girl with New York roots of your brand, but you were in school doing this and working with other people too. And you just didn't become a fashion designer. You just didn't become a blogger. I had a 22-year career before I became the Vintage Contessa and started buying and selling. So it isn't an automatic, you just become what you want. It evolves, and it evolves organically and authentically. So tell us about your journey.
Well, my journey, similar to Caroline's. Fred is not in my journey.
But Paul's pretty great too.
Insert Paul.
I met Fred too.
Now this is going to be a really interesting.
I'm sorry, I gotta stay on script. No, I, you know what? I grew up in a theater, in a little local theater. My mom is very involved in the theater still to this day. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, and my younger sister wanted to be on stage. My mom wanted to be on stage, and my older sister wanted to be on stage. And I just found myself immersed in the costume room underneath the theater. And I loved costumes. I loved fashion. I loved clothes. And growing up in a small town, I mean, this is going to sound like poor parenting, but I told my mom, get me out of school. I want to go look for new clothes in a big city, the big city of Columbia, South Carolina, which is like, not that big. But I just loved fashion, and fortunately, I always knew I wanted to be a designer, but definitely hills and valleys. And I majored in design, moved to New York, was there for 12 years, met my husband there, worked as an assistant designer for 2 different companies, and just was disgruntled with the design process, and decided, it really was an internship with Rebecca Taylor that I knew, sort of pushing back tears, that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But never landed the job designing a product that I really believed in. And so my family is entrepreneurial, and we just say, whatever you want to do it. And everybody in my family said, why are you working for somebody else? Why don't you start your own line? And I did. I started in 2006 in New York, and out of my apartment. But at the same time, I worked in finance as an assistant to some very disgruntled hedge fund managers that were seeing the recession happen, and they were losing money, and they were very, very stressed. And I had no idea what the hedge fund even did. I was just sort of there to make a paycheck and assist them any way I could. But at night, I was designing. And just to make ends meet, I worked at 2 different hedge funds as an assistant for about 2.5 years, and then was able, fortunately, to raise capital to go out on my own. And but ironically enough, when I was an assistant to a hedge fund manager, my line was sold at Saks. I wasn't even full time with my business, and so I
Wow.
think some investors saw some strength in me, saying, "Well, this could be a great investment considering Hunter's not even, at her day job designing. She's at a hedge fund." But anyway, I just I've been growing it since 2006. A lot has changed. I moved here with my husband to start a family in 2009 when my daughter was born. Tried to do the back and forth between Houston and New York for about a year. And then kind of threw my hands up in the air too and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And then 2 months later said, I don't actually want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to, but ultimately, you asked a question earlier that wasn't shared with this team. When my daughter Harrison was born, I think that's when I became a smarter designer, and that's when I became a better entrepreneur, a better businesswoman, because it became a sacrifice, a big sacrifice to be away from them. And so every day, is very challenging to walk out the door, drop them off at school, and maybe not see them until pickup time. But I love what I do. I'm super passionate about it. I'm super thankful to no longer be in New York, because New York gave me some great moments and high moments, but I think Houston has been the ultimate, and it's been so much more fun building this business here with this community who just gives and gives and gives. I mean, I remember Caroline and I knew each other in New York, and Caroline said, "You're moving to Houston? I'm moving to Houston." And we ended up living down the street from one another. I don't know if you shared this with me or it was just something that I just learned over time, but this town, from the moment my husband and I moved here in 2000, and I'm sorry, did I say 2009? We moved
I
here
was
in
going to
2015.
correct you, but
Thank you.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Harrison
you.
and Knox are
Yes.
2015.
Exactly. Yes, 2015 was when my daughter was born. She's 5 today.
Oh,
Yeah,
happy
she's 5
first
today.
birthday!
Yeah, today's Harrison's
Happy
birthday.
birthday, Harrison.
But thank you. This like city has been just amazing. They just give and give and give. Everyone wants to help you succeed.
And in fact, today I was talking to Rosalind Bazell, one of our other podcast guests, and she said she wore your line in a photograph that she's going to
Oh,
be
really?
presented in a magazine. And
Oh,
she's
wow.
one of our best dressed Houstonians. And I think it's interesting because we do think about that, and we think about giving back to our community, and we made it through Harvey, and we can make it through COVID. But let's talk about COVID pivots, because
Yeah.
that has been as significant as, or
Yeah.
even maybe more than, the Great Recession.
Definitely.
So tell us about
Definitely.
how you guys have pivoted your businesses and your families.
I think mine will be more of a family answer, just because Millie was born March 18th, which is the week after school shut down, and really, everything kind of,
Yeah.
it was,
The world shut down.
yes, the world shut down, and
Like
so
March
much was
16th.
unknown at the time. I remember going into my checkup. I was 38 weeks pregnant. And I just started crying because, you don't know. We didn't know anything, We didn't know what would happen if a baby got it, if a pregnant woman got it.
Yeah.
And my doctor was amazing. I ended up having the baby, Millie, the next day. And, of course, they shut the hospitals down so no visitors could come. It took me a minute to wrap my head around, the boys not being able to come meet their sister. But it actually ended up being really nice because it was just Fred and I there. It was quiet. There was no interruptions, But my maternity leave has aligned with
Yeah,
COVID.
that's right.
So you know what? I've never done this before. Being a blogger, it's hard because your life is kind of your content and your business and your income. But for the first time, I've taken the time off. Nothing's going on anyway.
That's great.
Honestly, every partnership paid, as a blogger, you get paid through sponsorships and partnerships. At the beginning of COVID, every single one got put on hold. I mean, every time I checked my email, it was, we'd still love to work with you, but due to, obvious circumstances, we're going to need to postpone this partnership. So I had no work that needed to be done. And so I really just embraced
It was
the
almost a
time.
blessing.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
Like a
embraced
gift
it.
to
Yeah,
have that
totally.
moment
It was an
with Millie.
excuse and a
Totally.
reason. And I mean, when you're scared and something like this is happening, all you want to do is just grab your family and curl up and
Yep.
be at home. And so that's what I did. I've been blogging for 9 years, and it's the first time I've ever, gone that long without posting or blogging and worrying about it. And so in a way, it was kind of a blessing. But I'll let Hunter talk about it from more of a business
Whereas
perspective.
You didn't have the luxury of stopping. The calendar
Well,
was coming.
It was the calendar was coming, but I do look back. I was supposed to. So in March, obviously, all hell was breaking loose, and it became a very like sort of forward-thinking logistical nightmare in a sense because retailers were closing, and we were trying to get our new. We're launching today or tomorrow. We're launching a huge fall collection. At that time, we were launching spring, and it was fresh product, and a lot of stores were saying, do not ship me any product, we're closed until further notice. And so we had to get really gritty and say, well, we're sitting on this inventory, so I'm gonna try and sell it from my bathroom by talking to my clients and talking to my customers and my followers about this is how you wear it. And I was in bathroom slippers because that's what I was wearing. I wasn't going into the office. It said, okay, I just had a cup of coffee, this is how you wear Hunter Bell in your house because you have nowhere to go.
So real.
Yeah, and it got us thinking about house dressing and what does house dressing look like. And I was supposed to launch a holiday collection and debut it to stores in May, which did not happen until August. And for a long time, everyone in the office said, holiday's such an important part. And it is. This town is so festive during the holiday season. And from September, since living in Houston, I know that from September to December, I mean, it is just parties, events, let's go here, let's go there. It's a very social city. So holiday's been really important for my business since moving here. But I just said, I'm not inspired right now to think that way. I don't know where the world will be. So in May, I just kept putting it off and saying, I don't know where I'll be. I don't know where we'll be. And I don't know what I want to wear. I don't have anywhere to go. And so I waited and I postponed designing holiday until very late in the summer. I started designing it the beginning of August, and we debuted it around Labor Day. Or anyway, I'm just not gonna don't fact check me.
No We're
dates
just
anymore.
gonna say there was a moment and we did it.
And we did it. And it's black and white and ivory. It's very simple. It's very buy now, wear now, and also transitional. And I think that's how we have to pivot. We have to be all in on e-commerce. E-commerce is more important than ever. So we've seen growth there. And then we've also had to really think and strategize on product that is well-made, product that has longevity. Try not to be too fashion forward. Try to be very transitional because we still don't know where people will be in a couple months. And I don't know that we're designing spring right now, and I can't say that we're going to see a ton of weddings. So what landscape does that look like when I'm deciding what type of spring dresses to design? And I think but to Caroline's point in fashion, we all slowed down too. And I think fashion designers, or a lot of fashion designers, have wanted to see the slower pace of the industry because that allows creators to be creative. That allows people to come back and find and seek inspiration, not be forced to finish a collection then move into another one. I mean, you've got to travel. You've got to be able to seek inspiration from being able to have R&R with your friends and your family. Otherwise, you're gonna get burnt out. And it has been a quiet summer, but we're back in, and it's a little busier now. But I'm thankful for that spring break moment that we had with our kids, to be with them and to lean on them, and then the whole summer to really lean on them and not have such a fast-moving time.
And I love the way you represent it on both of your posts. The way that it comes through is, again, real, authentic. When you're showing your family time, when you're showing people on the beach, I feel like people are, because you could work remotely. We were in quarantine in Rockport, and I didn't bring a lot of clothes, but I love to dress even when it's just for me. It's not even about
it makes
the
you
picture.
feel better. Yeah.
It does, and I heard that from so many women that say, I just miss dressing. And I'd say, well, then throw on a house dress, like you say.
Yeah, I
and to
love house
see
dress.
these like flowy things that you can actually go to Target and run through carpool, but be comfortable in.
Yeah.
I think that that's so true. And I think it comes out in what you're doing. So much of the family connection is there. And tell us about like the impact of the fact that your parents told you could do this. I've been doing a lot of research into this, like how people become successful. And such a big part of it is the story you tell yourself. It's the fact that your parents said, you can do this. And how blessed you were to have that kind of support system.
Yeah.
To know and to visualize it. And the fact that you had, and I love your mom. I feel like
I
I've
love
met
your
all
mom
your
too.
family, and she's so cute on her social media. Let's just give a shout out to your mom's social
She's so
media.
cute. Mom loves Danae. She was always going to go see Danae when she's in town.
But let's talk about the impact that family has had on your careers and like what you design, and you launched a children's line, and you're showing so much about kids and pregnancy and all that.
Yeah, my parents have always been hard workers, and I grew up across the street from my dad's parents as well. My grandfather was a veterinarian, veterinarian in a small town in Texas. Worked so hard, and my dad and my grandfather had a ranch where they have cattle, and my dad is a pilot for American Airlines, so he would very much be like gone for 3 days and then home for 5 days or whatever growing up. But he was never not working. Like if he wasn't flying, he had a side project, rental houses or cattle business or ranches or whatever it was. So I think they always just instilled that work ethic in us. We worked from a young age. I would go to my grandfather's veterinarian clinic and like help at the front desk. I had a first job at I think like 14 or 15. And then my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was in high school, and she started selling real estate, and now she's is the biggest real estate agent in our area. And so it's just been amazing to see how successful, like you were saying earlier today, there's no age where you have to be what you're going to be.
I love that.
Later in life. And so that was really cool to see that she was able to focus on raising us, and then now she's having her moment where she's
Exactly.
amazing.
A fulfilling, successful career.
Yeah. So I just think they always instilled work ethic in us. And it's just been, and they've always supported us as well. I think traveling so much with my dad being a pilot was huge I have 2 other siblings, all 3 of us, because even though we're from a very small town, we saw the world growing up. We could travel anywhere, and it made me know that I could and had the desire to go somewhere else. I think a lot of people from small towns don't get out, but seeing that it was no big deal to go intern in New York in college, or to meet my sister in LA for our 21st birthday, or like whatever it is, it just kind of put that fire under me to see more and want to do more. And if I didn't have that, I don't know that I ever would have just picked up and moved to New York. And when Fred and I got married in October, and he had been accepted into Columbia, so we knew that we were going to be moving that spring. And I was working again in retail during the Great Recession, so I was like, I've got to start applying for jobs now. There probably aren't going to be a lot of jobs for me in New York. And I ended up getting the Gilt Group job in May, but at his company, he couldn't leave until July. And so I got on a plane by myself, picked out our apartment, moved to New York City, did it all alone. And I totally give props to my parents for the way they raised us to be able to do that. So many of my friends are like, "You're crazy. I could never."
Oh, my dad would
just
have been like,
get
"You're
on a
not
one-way
New
ticket.
York City."
One-way ticket to New York without your husband, and just waiting on your furniture to
Bye,
arrive,
Fred.
sleeping on an air mattress. I mean, I just did it, and I want my kids to have that.
Grit. You
grit
said the word
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
grit. I love that.
just go for it.
So tell us about you. Southern girl, New York too, and
I'm the middle child. I don't know if it's because I have 2 sisters, older sister and a younger sister, and I was just, my older sister, had my parents' attention a lot, and my younger sister did too. And I just was always naturally independent, I think, because of that. But also, like Caroline, my mother taught dance. She always wanted to own her own dance studio, but she was my dance teacher. She taught everyone in town pretty much tap and jazz, no ballet. My father was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. My father was working for my grandfather's business, and my dad was pretty strict. He, he didn't like seeing C's, and I mean, no parent would, but he was also always asking my older sister and I, what is your job for the summer? And, he'd make us show us what job we have lined up. And that was a young age. And, he was very particular. When I told him I wanted to move to New York after college, he said, I will support you for 3 months. But by this date, you will come home and you will be back in South Carolina living with us if you can't make this happen. And so it wasn't.
It's so empowering.
Yeah, what? And also,
it shows you can do this, but if not, this is the path.
This is the path. And I took it, I took his word for it, and I was like, okay, that means I'm coming home in 3 months. And maybe he would have given me, 4 months. But I ended up landing a job within those 3 months. And I think I don't want to be, I don't want to shelter my kids. And my mom was accepted to Juilliard. Her parents would never allow her to go. And so she was really the one to say, go to New York, go and do it. You can do anything you
I
want.
have chills.
So I think there was a lot of that. My mom was okay with C's, but my dad wasn't. It's a little yin and yang. My mom's more creative. My dad was more business oriented. And but I took from both. And my dad doesn't say a lot, and when he does, I listen. So if he has something to say, then it's pretty important and meaningful. And and my mom's my fighter, so she says, I've got your back. You can do anything you want. And I don't know. I think I'm a little bold in risk that I take in life, and I like to be bold with fashion. And we use that word a lot in our company and on my website. And taking risks is fun, and being an entrepreneur is fun. And I saw, but I've learned a lot. My dad also said, I'll never pay for business school because you're going to learn the most out of just starting your own business. You're going to fall and you're going to get back up, and there are going to be hills to climb. But I didn't go to business school, but I've learned so much. I think if I had gone to business school, maybe I wouldn't have started the company because I would have been hesitant of that knowledge, maybe. B, I would have saved myself a lot of money and a lot of tears if I had gone to business school, though, because I've made a lot of dumb mistakes.
But I think we learn from the mistakes more. And I'm reading a book called Untamed about raising a teenager. And so much of that journey is letting them fail. And I think it's true for little kids too. You have to give them a safe space to fail. But there's so many Brene Brown, she said, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. You're not taking enough risk. And
I love that.
And to be a fashion designer in this economy, I've read so many articles about that. And to survive, to have the taste and style to create something people want, but to also manage a business from a financial standpoint. Sometimes you spend even more time on the business aspect than you even spend designing it.
Absolutely.
But one place you guys both spend a lot of time is giving back to the community. And as Houstonians, we are all about community. There's hardly a fashion event in Houston that doesn't happen with a charity attached to it.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've also missed so much during COVID. We connected over sex trafficking. Your entire platform on your website talks about that. So let's talk about where you guys are giving back. And I worked with you with Pediatric Cancer for Kids, with Heroes for Children, and giving back. So let's share about, why don't you go first and share about your heart and where you give.
Sure. So I feel like moving to Houston, it's so overwhelming because there's so many amazing charities and philanthropies that you can be involved with. So our first few years here, it's just been kind of filling things out. As you said, we met Heroes for Children, which is a pediatric cancer organization that I've chaired and been really involved in. And of course, how can your heart not go out to those families and those children? And then sadly, Houston is the #1 city for sex trafficking in our country, which I still don't understand why people aren't like standing on the rooftops like screaming about it. I don't think
we don't hear about it.
I don't think it gets enough attention. So that's a place that I would love to continue to put more of my time and energy. I feel like life is kind of, it's in chapters, and right now I've been drowning in the newborn chapter.
Yes.
But that's something that I where my heart is. I just don't understand why it doesn't get more attention. And And I actually have been seeing a lot more on social media lately. Obviously, not just about Houston, but just about sex trafficking in general.
Good.
I don't know. Did y'all see the Netflix story? Apparently, something came out about called Cuties, which is
I didn't see that, but I saw Filthy Rich with Jeffrey Epstein. And then Mayor
Yes.
Turner
Yeah.
just came out with the whole task force. This week he announced that. And then last week on our podcast, we had Jonna Stallings, who's the assistant DA, and she's over sexual crimes and sex trafficking and sees all the cases there, and Amy Pierce with Houston 20. So we are, and then even the national government gave, I think,
Oh, yeah.
34
and what
million
just
or
happened in
something.
Georgia where they like rescued
Yes.
those.
Yeah.
So there is
Yeah.
progress. There are steps forward, but from a podcast aspect, I'm going to be bringing people on once a month, once every other month to try to give people outlets, because I feel like we want to make a change, but we don't know where to make a change. But I noticed on your website, you gave 5 or 6 different charities, and there's different ways that you
Yeah.
can get involved.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you just by bringing awareness.
Yeah, just
maybe
by, yeah, that's right.
share
just
some
by,
of that.
just by bringing awareness. When my daughter was born, I had never dedicated time to a charity since starting the company from 2006 to 2015. That just wasn't. I didn't feel convicted by anything. And then moving to Houston with the birth of my daughter, hearing about how it was rampant here. My ears just perked up, and I think that's the beauty of becoming a mother is I remember giving birth to my daughter during New York Fashion Week, and New York Fashion Week was everything for me. And then when I gave birth to my daughter that week, just this huge light bulb went off. I said, I don't care about Fashion Week. This is the birth of my daughter. This is a miracle, and this is my calling for life. And being a working mother, but just giving my undivided attention to them when I'm home is the balance that we're forced with today. But when she was born, I looked at her little face and said, I don't ever I want to protect my daughter. And what does this look like? And sex trafficking is so big. It's so massive. The problem I think that we have when we want to give back is it seems
Insurmountable.
insurmountable, where
Where do we start?
where do we
Yeah.
start? And
Yeah.
it still feels that way. So the little that I've done doesn't even feel as if I've done enough. I mean, I wish I could talk about it with friends and family members every day. A lot of people don't want to hear about it. And, I also have to exude joy and radiate joy to the people that are around me to also build them up and keep, especially my staff members, happy and healthy and working hard. And,
Absolutely.
because this is a tough
hard
conversation. But
It's emotional and it's vulnerable.
yeah, I do wish all of the issues that are going on in the world, I wish every day combined a conversation or a topic on the news about sex trafficking, because it's so big. It's such a problem. And I don't feel as if we hear enough about it on the news. And I think that's where people are getting their source. So, or their,
Well, I can definitely tell people you can go to fightforus.org. We work with 34 501c3s that are in some capacity, and we're updating our website so people can find the best way. If it's to help with survivors and donate clothes to them, or if it's to help with awareness in schools, or if it's to educate young boys about pornography and how that
Yeah,
changes.
huge.
We're trying to find different ways, so that's a good way to reach out to a lot of different people. Well, oddly, this quote came from Coco Chanel. Hard times arouse an instinctive desire for authenticity.
oh yeah, especially
So
right
true.
now.
And I think so. And I think you
Yeah.
hit on it. Is Rob and I had this conversation because I said, I feel like I should be a better Christian, that I can find joy because I know I'm blessed, but it's just so hard every day to wake up and find joy.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, you should be happier. I'm like, hey, you're supposed to be consoling me.
I think there's a
more than
lot
that.
of guilt right now,
it
because even
is.
it's hard no matter what your circumstances are, and you're scared and you're nervous and you are worried for your family and just everyone, and then you feel guilty for feeling that way because there's so many people
Worse.
that have it worse. So I
Yeah.
think that's
But
what a
I
lot
think
of
it
people-
also helps people to know that collectively we seem to have it together and have successful businesses and families. And it's it's hard. It's hard for everyone, and it's okay for us to all acknowledge that it's hard and that we can get through this and to turn to something, your faith, meditation, yoga. There's so many different things, and I'm just encouraging people because as much as the disease has hurt, I feel like it's created anxiety, abuse in homes, domestic abuse has been on the increase, child abuse. But
and kids been not being able to go to school and get their
And eat,
meals
yeah.
or get away from, when you have working parents, think about how many kids are probably at home by themselves, while their kids are going to work or while their parents are going to work. It's a lot.
It's very sad.
well, so how are the boys? Let's talk a little bit about school. How is school going?
Danae and I's kids are at the same school, but they're in different grades. So we're doing different things, right? Middle school's doing
We
something
are middle school, River Oaks Baptist, so she's 1 week there, 1 week home, but you're there
one
every day.
day home, 1 day at school right now.
Wow.
We don't go every day until the 28th. So we're doing homeschool 1 day and then in-person school 1 day, then homeschool day, which it's actually been very doable. I really commend the school the way they've done it. So the teachers are teaching in person. They're learning lessons with their teacher, and then they're sending homework home. That's been very manageable, and the kids should have gotten instruction on it from the teacher the day before. So
great.
it's not so much pressure on the parents to be, teaching something new. And my favorite thing that they're not doing is making the kids sit on Zoom from 8 to 3 every day, because a 6-year-old boy
I don't even want to
cannot do
as
that.
an
I
adult.
can't do that.
Who has that attention
No
span?
one.
I would
And-
love to have that.
And
attention
so
I know.
the way they've done it has been to where we can be interactive at home, and we're usually able to finish by lunch. And so that's our
good.
morning. Millie's taking her nap. We're tackling homeschool. Andrew, my pre-K middle child, is in school in person every day. So at least I'm able to focus on Knox on his homeschool days. So it's doable.
Yeah.
We're just
Thank God for
counting
St.
down to the
Martin's, too.
28th.
Yes. What
And then
about-
our kids my younger kids
Yeah.
are together. So
They're-
we all have this overlap.
My 3 are at St. Martin's all day long. On Friday, and with teachers, they're being very cautious, and I think they're staying in their little pods. And Millie's ready to go to school
Miss
too.
Millie.
She's ready to make her
Yes,
cameo.
Beautiful. Get her up so she
Yeah,
can make a
absolutely.
cameo. We have to see her.
Oh, she's so pretty.
She's beautiful. Well, let's end on a positive note.
Okay.
Tell us something fabulous about fashion. I was feeling guilty for a while. On my on my feed, I was like, "Can I talk about fashion when people are going through all this?" And I found
Still
that
have to wear clothes.
people want a creative outlet. This is gorgeous, girl. Look
says,
at
"I'm in my
you,
pajamas."
pumpkin. I love it. That's like all those Zoom people. The bottom half are pajamas.
She's in her house clothes, Hunter. But
I love
Hunter
it.
totally spoiled her. Hunter delivered all the Harrison Bell samples to Millie. So she's
Miss
going to be
Millie, we
the
gotta
best dressed
stay
baby
tuned for
there
that.
ever was, aren't you? So Harrison will just keep passing her clothes
That's
down.
right.
I love it. So if people were gonna buy a few items for fall, what would you suggest? What do you feel most inspired by?
Oh, well, I think it's just about being comfortable, because people, it is true. People, they're going to the grocery store. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're still scared to go out there. So I love the sweatshirt, the Teddy sweatshirt. It's comfortable. It's lightweight. It's cooler in here. Maybe it's a little heavy for outside, but as you transition into the fall, it's perfect, and it's just so comfortable and easy. But I mean, God, there's so much we're launching tomorrow.
like the
Great
tops,
tops.
like-
Everybody's doing Zoom calls now,
Yes,
so
the tops are awesome.
Our tops are really important, but our dresses are too, because we nailed on it. Like you still want to get dressed up. You still want to have something really special to pull out, and people are going to go to dinner. They'll be careful.
People are having smaller gatherings, a lot of outdoor. but-
dinner parties in their
Yeah.
home with another couple.
But you still, want to look nice, even though
Yeah.
less people might see it.
That's right. I mean, I'm just inspired by creating an authentic product. You're under the microscope. Every business, every individual is under the microscope now, more than ever. So, we have to be very authentic, and not that we haven't been, but we just have to, push the envelope a little bit, challenge ourselves, because we're one of one of those brands that is still standing. A lot of them went out of business, and so
Which congratulations to that, because I mean,
Bravo.
bravo
It
to
is.
you. I mean, you see all these huge, massive, the J. Crews of the world, the Neiman Marcus's of the world,
Brooks
that are,
Brothers,
that
yeah.
are
Brooks
struggling.
Brooks Brothers. That really hit
I
me
know.
for some
Yeah.
reason. It's so extreme. Well, and
Lord
I,
and Taylor.
yes, I feel like your pieces are so timeless, and I think that's certainly the basis of our business is that if you buy our pieces, and I was so excited that Paul
I love
gifted
my bracelet.
you,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
and
beautiful.
Sweet Fred and your push present,
Yeah, we
and
both have
yes,
on
Oh, yeah.
it's all about the
Our love
Cartier
collection.
love. And
All about the love.
all about the love. And so, Caroline, I looked on your site. You have a few suggestions for pieces for fall. Is there something that, I mean, I realized I didn't even get a new handbag this year. I borrowed this one from the store, so I'm kind of lucky that I get.
I love a good handbag.
But I think that, is there jewelry? Is
think-
there
I think
clothing?
the details is what I'm loving like right now. Like your Teddy sweatshirt. It's just a
The
sweatshirt.
shoulders.
But the shoulder details
Yes.
and just making something little. I love all the fun collars right now.
I love the fun collar, the pilgrim collars.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one, what you're saying, if you are in a job that people are only seeing you from the waist up on a Zoom call, that it's great to have that little touch. And then my life is just dropping my kids off at carpool, but I have to get out now because we do temperature checks and
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
exactly. You
So
can't
it's
wear
like
your
I
slippers.
can't just be in my
Right.
pajamas and then everyone in the carpool
wanted-
line and all the teachers sees me. So
I wanted to wear
anything
mine
that's
today.
easy to just throw on but feel good, I think is what people are looking for right now. Or
Well-
the comfortable house dress that you just it feels like.
I think we will see, when Caroline touched on Gilt Group, we're going to see people not want to pay the Hunter Bell prices. And I understand that. And I want to be sensitive to that. So we're internally working on trying to be very, very mindful. I like expensive fabrics, so that drives our price point up a bit. I like still making a quality product in New York City, and some is made here in Houston. That also drives the price up. But I think we have internally for us, I'm talking to my team a lot about how can we introduce some great basic tops for $195 that you're going to wear over and that are still quality, but just it doesn't have to be European fabrics. So we're trying to work on that because I think we'll see Gilt come back. I think we'll see the runways come back. I think we'll see, a lot of people going into recession, which I think we are going into a recession. Maybe we're not. But, I have to be careful on making sure that we're, being able
But
to
I know
offer.
as a buyer from the last recession, it was really interesting to see what people kept spending money on because I bought luxury items, all the big brands for Neiman's, and people, and maybe it'll be different this time around, but people stopped buying the logos and the flashy because if they did have the money to afford it, they didn't want to show that they were. It was kind of maybe
Oh,
what we were saying
interesting.
earlier about guilt or just not feeling comfortable.
Yes.
But all the timeless, pieces that you wouldn't maybe say, oh, that was
this
Gucci
season.
runway.
Yes.
Yeah. But
It was
if
more
it
the
was
classic
yes,
styles.
it was the Ralph Lauren and the Armani and all the stuff that kept selling and that did well. Where some of the flashier pieces, and I think we thought at the time it was because people didn't want to be showy.
I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So that's interesting if that continues. The timeless things like the Cartier love bracelet and the,
Well, it's
the
been
less flashy
Cartier
stuff.
tank watch. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
A good watch, the timeless pieces that you're going to have forever that are an investment and just feel safer to
Yeah.
spend your money on.
Yes. Well, you guys have been the best guests, but I have to admit, Millie stole the show, even though she just made a cameo.
There's nothing better.
She was the best guest for napping through most
She
of
was
it.
so darling. Well, people can follow you guys at the House of Harper,
Yes.
Yeah.
Hunter Bell, and check out your new line. It
Yeah,
is
please.
absolutely stunning. And I also bought that beautiful white lace
I love that.
blouse with the great sleeves. I'm really focused on the sleeves now, and I notice when I post, people make comments about
The
everything
sleeves?
with the
Yes.
sleeves.
I love a sleeve.
So people are
It's
really
so flattering, too.
It is. So I highly recommend if you're just buying a few pieces, and that's where I am right now.
Yeah.
I'm just buying a few pieces, and so I thought your pieces were something I had to have.
Thank you. Thank
yes.
you.
All right, you guys, can't wait to reconnect in a couple of years from here and see where we
I
are
know.
again. Sending love, and you guys can follow us at the Vintage Contessa, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so
Thank
much for having us. This was so
you.
fun.
It's
It was our
awesome.
first podcast experience for both of
Yeah,
us.
it
You
was
made it
nice.
very
Yay.
easy.
It was awesome.
And
Easy
for
breezy.
letting Millie come. That's,
Yeah.
You're the best.
Bye.